Good morning. How are you doing today, Nate?
Good. How are you, sir?
Fantastic. This is going to be the show that everybody's going to be talking about this summer. Oh, my God. It's come at the right time, too. We need this kind of action because we all believe we could do this, but we're going to live it through you guys.
Yeah. Do you all believe you can do this? Are you sure?
Well, we take chances in our everyday world. If anything, you're giving us the courage and the confidence to maybe take smaller chances, at work or when we go out to a national park and stuff. Well, I saw Nate do something. They talked about this. I think I can do this too.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, and I think that what you said there about work, bringing this into the workplace, because the heart of the show, the core of the show, beyond us being out on this raft, floating around the Pacific Ocean, and having that survival element to it. I think the social experiment aspect of this, the conversations, the diverse thought and an opinion, and just the diversity of the boat itself, the crew, and having these people have to put that stuff aside and come together and have conversations they might not normally have. Not just conversations, they got to work together and really listen to one another. And so, that's something that we feel like at times are losing more and more in society today. And that's why I think Survive the Raft is so important, this type of show, because yes, it's entertaining. Yes, there's money at stake and, there's adventure and all of this, but there's also that other element to this where, it's important to watch people try and kind of put aside their own bias, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Approach some of these conversations with humility, because we could all use that. We could all do better at that. It's not easy to do, but it's important.
Dude, you see, I'm going to study this show like I study Undercover Boss. And the reason why I say that is because during the lockdown, I was that guy who took a chance. I'm not afraid of COVID. I'm going to go get a job at a grocery store. Well, when that staff dwindles down starting at 7 p.m. and there's only 2 of us in there and we've got a busy hour, if we don't work together, I don't care what world they come from, we've got to work together no matter what. So I'm going to be studying these 9 people.
Right. Yeah, no, I mean, you hit it on the head. Like that's what I hope people get out of this, is an understanding that, this is a very extreme circumstance, when you're put on this, on a boat. And for those that don't know, it's based on an actual social experiment that occurred 50 years ago, where this anthropologist put, 10 very different people on a raft, and they floated from the Canary Islands in Spain to Mexico, to see if they could survive the trip, but also if they could put aside those differences and work together. It's super important. Like that's something. I mean, that's so interesting that you did that and had that experience. But yeah, it seems like they might seem like little things at times, but they grow into bigger things. And we've got to do something to sort of right the ship, for lack of a better term, and change the way that we're interacting with one another. Or we're not going to last very long out here. And we don't want to live in this, in a miserable existence where we're always angry and upset and pissed off and worried about what the other quote unquote side is thinking and doing, and just considering them, bad or evil or wrong because they think different than us. Like that's not the reality, and it's just not healthy.
Well, you being a part of the Green Beret, what's more important? Is it the awareness of your team and the strength of that team, or is it the compassion for those that are on your team?
Yeah, I mean, boy, I think it's 50-50. That's a really good question. I mean, you have to have that awareness. I think self-awareness more than anything to understand, like, okay, well, I feel this way. I feel very strongly about this thing, but it's only because of my experience and who I am and what I endured or what I saw, and what I did in my life. And then coupled with the compassion that you just said, like that, hey, like, let me just put myself in their shoes. Let me just try to gain that perspective and think about, if I was them and I was born in these circumstances and I was raised in this environment, and I was accustomed to these things, like, how much would this affect me? How much would this hurt me? How hard would this be for me to kind of put aside? And like all those things matter. So like that, I mean, compassion is such a powerful thing, and we need more of it, all over the world. And in our everyday lives and in our small little intimate lives, with our families and friends and stuff like that too. But it's very important. And it was a huge part of the mission in the Special Forces. It might not sound normal to think that. You think, oh, about the Green Berets, like the compassion, that's a word. that resonates with them, but it's really important.
Oh my God! My dad spoke of the brotherhood that he had during World War II in those trenches in Germany. That they needed each other and they had to rely on each other's inner strength, and they had to work together.
Right. Yeah. No, absolutely. I mean, and those guys. I mean, that's just another level. I don't even want to try to compare some of my experiences to the people that fought in World War II. But I have a feeling I know a lot of those dynamics were like. And that brotherhood and camaraderie that comes through intense circumstances like that, and when it's life and death, and everything's elevated, and the stakes are high. Like, man, you quickly are able to put aside those differences and not worry about those little things that make us unique and sometimes make us butt heads. Because right now, I just want to make it, and I want you to make it, and I want us to survive this thing together. And I may not agree with you on anything, but I'll still take a bullet for you. Like that sort of thought process and mindset is very unique and very different. I think that's why it made sense for me to be a part of this series, more as a host and a conduit for these conversations and facilitator than a participant itself.
One of the invisible things about Survive the Raft on Discovery is the fact that, and I'm blessed with the opportunity to talk with a lot of book authors that bring out and release stories about culture. And the reason why they do that is because they want their readers to say, finally, a book about me. I think that with your diverse cultures on this show, we're going to be doing the same exact thing. We're going to be going, oh my God, I hang out with these people all the time when I go to a grocery store or when I go to a concert. Oh my God, they're actually getting along. And sometimes there is that struggle.
Right. Yeah. No, I mean, I think that's huge. I mean, you said it earlier with, the job you took on during COVID. And I mean, it's just, I think it's something that's very relatable to everybody. And that's what's cool about this, because these are what you would, quote unquote, regular people, that work regular jobs that are out there in this situation. And, they've got very different day to day. And what's important to them, and when you bring in the elements such as you get to see it quite a bit in the series premiere, but we've got people that are out there hunting, and spearfishing, and catching sustenance for the group, and then we've got people that don't eat meat and are very they're animal rights activists, and it's something that's very important to them, and you may not agree with that. And you may think, well, they have to survive. You gotta let that go. But it's like, this is at a core so much of who you are. It's very important to you. It certainly doesn't make it easy, and it can be very stressful and distressing. And, just to kind of watch that play out, and see the sensitivities or lack of sensitivities at times that are displayed and how people experience those differently. Will they be able to work through that? We're going to have to wait and see. But it's already set up to show you, like, this is not going to be easy for any of these folks because they're going to be indoctrinated into something that's very different than they're used to, and exposed to things that they normally would just run away from and not have any connection to.
I hope you're going to have an after show. And the reason why I bring that up is because you talk about the meat eaters and those that don't. I mean, the vegans and the vegetarians. If you sit down and listen to them speak, you'll learn something and it's going to change your life. It's the same thing as those that, that easily find pain, and through pain management, their life will change as well. I mean, I want an after show on this so I can see how they change from episode 1 all the way to the end.
Yeah, we've talked about that, and that very much may occur, and I hope it does. I want to reunite with some of these folks as well, and kind of hear about this experiment from the other side. At this point, like, now that they've had time to reflect, but you're going to see that throughout the season, the growth, which is really cool. You get to see these people change and grow before your eyes. But that's a really good point. I mean, I would love to recap it once again. When it's all said and done. But I mean, I think you'll get the opportunity to really get close to these folks and learn quite a bit about them, and, really feel that connection to them, and sort of empathize and resonate on various levels, what they're going through. And yeah, I mean, they're just like you and me. They're everybody else. They're just like the most normal folks in so many ways, but also very unique and diverse in thought.
And we love those stories where we take those normal folks and they can push themselves down that field like a Carolina Panther in the way that they could have broken bones, they could have, strained fingers and things like that. But for somehow, some way, they made it. They made it on that particular episode.
Yeah, exactly. And you definitely see that. I mean, it's rough out there. It's not this cozy resort they're chilling at by any means. So yeah, there's that physical aspect too. And it ties into the mental and emotional, as well. But it's grueling and it's hard and it's not, every day is not easy. The folks that are able to kind of compartmentalize some of those things and keep the eye on the prize and kind of looking at the group as a whole and really focused on the team, seem to get through those aches and pains a little bit easier than the others.
We were talking about doing the research on an after show, but what about those viewers? Are you guys going to have some sort of interaction with viewers in the way that, because here in the Carolinas we've got a lot of boaters, and I know they're going to watch Survive the Raft, and they're going to say, "Oh, I could do that because I'm on my boat every weekend." But I'm thinking, no, you cannot do this, and maybe you need to learn a little bit of survival yourself.
I mean, I kind of felt the same way. I'll be honest, and then maybe it's part of my own bias and arrogance of being, I was a Green Beret, I can handle this, and I was, as mentioned, I'm the host of the show, so I'm not spending 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on this raft like the crew members are. So after watching them and seeing some of the choices they were forced to make, and then seeing the other side of it too, and understanding, if I had all these cameras in my face at all times, kind of blocking my every move, you know what I mean? And it takes a lot of courage to still be not only that vulnerable, but they've got to make some quick decisions under a microscope there. And we're all going to be watching these decisions, and the repercussions that come with that. But it may seem easy from an outside perspective, and it may sound like, oh yeah, I got this, no problem. But I'll tell you, I changed my tune quite a bit from after being out there and watching this whole thing unfold and see those that kind of rise to the top and overcome and grow through this situation, and those who are so resistant to that. I know myself, I can be resistant to changes. I think a lot of people can be, when we get so sure about something and we're kind of set in our ways and accustomed to a certain way of life. And then it's just when it's shocked like that, you don't really know how you're going to react until you're in the moment, until you're actually in that situation. So it's hard to say that I'd be able to war game this thing so well and have it all figured out. So I think you're onto something there. There's going to be that initial feeling from people until they watch how things play out and they continue, through with the series and see okay, well, didn't really think of that. I hadn't planned on that. I wouldn't be prepared for that. So
a listener type question, because people are just going to be discovering this new show, Survive the Raft on Discovery. And that would be, we're so accustomed to, well, you're voted off the island. Are they getting kicked off the boat? What's going on here?
Well, it is their society. Ooh. It is their experiment. And so they get to make some of their own rules and they get to choose how they do that. Yeah. They're sort of self-governed. So, just like in Lord of the Flies, I mean, we wanted these people to have some autonomy and be able to make make their own choices and decisions on how they run their raft, how they run their crew. There are limitations to that. I mean, there's limited places to sleep, and there's always that number of mouths you got to feed. And,
yep.
You know what I mean? So you got to build the strongest team while keeping it at a certain number that makes sense for the hand you're dealt. You're on a 60 by 40 foot raft. There's not a lot of shade on the raft itself. I mean, that's something to think about, something I hadn't really thought about prior. Okay, these people are going to be baking in the sun for hours on end every day, and the only place to find shade is where everybody else is hanging out. So if you want any alone time, you better throw that sunscreen on, take a little walk in circles around this boat. So yeah, there's there's a limit to how many you can have on there, but they make those rules, and they're introduced with new people every episode, and new opportunities to build a stronger team and get to know these folks in a limited amount of time, and then make some really tough decisions, and they figure out and pick the manner in which they get to make these decisions.
Yeah, but we're human out here, and loyalty is broken. Forgiveness better play a big part in it, or we're going to have a battle on that boat. Absolutely.
No, you're not wrong there. I mean, it's a big part of this. It really is. But and it will get tested. Whether or not that breaks. We'll just have to wait and see. But it absolutely gets tested every episode in various ways.
But see, you can see the reason why this is going to become the water cooler conversation, that people are going to be talking about it at their swimming pools and things, because they're going to say, did you see that episode? What would you have done? And I think that's what it is that you're bringing the viewer into the picture without even being there.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and I think that the viewer will connect so much with the crew out there because they are everyday people. I mean, it's not like some of the other shows out there where, we don't really feel like we can actually relate to these people. We enjoy watching it. Maybe it's quite entertaining. But it doesn't often feel relatable. And these people feel, at least to me and a lot of others that I know have had the opportunity to watch it, they feel very relatable. They feel like you and me, and someone that you might bump into at the grocery store. You know what I mean? And so that's a really important piece of this. And I think that, you hit it on the head, like those water cooler conversations. I think it would be very interesting to hear some of those and some of the people's perspectives. And I'd love to hear what people thought after watching, this series premiere, about who they think is going to be successful here, and who are they so sure is not, because I think we're all going to be surprised. I know we are.
Yeah, because you know how we are. We all have our favorites. We pick our favorite, and it's like, well, I'm going to stick with them the entire way.
Exactly. Until they're gone.
Yeah, right. And it's like, okay, now who do I like? Well, okay, who is second on my list here?
Exactly.
So with your open and kindness, how is it that do you get to lean in and help share a secret? This is what I would do if I were in your situation, or do you have to stay 100% away?
Yeah, I mean, I do. And I was tempted to, I wanted to lean in, kind of share my perspective, but it's not my place. You know what I mean? And it's not my place. So it's like, I'm an observer, as it should be with any good experiment, especially a social experiment. I'm not meant to inject myself in these conversations and sort of give my opinion and give what I think would be the best way to do this and to do that. There are situations, there's a few moments where, I'm asked something very specific, and I'm allowed to answer that in a way that it doesn't really affect the group, and it doesn't really, there is no bias implied, anything like that. But for the most part, it's their experiment, it's their journey, it's their raft, it's their rules.
When you bring up the experiment, do you have doctors and scientists on board there so that they can learn from this as well? Because I mean, when you put the human body and mind, the body and the soul into something like this, my God, that's something right there that can be used for future generations.
Yeah, I mean, not on the raft itself. I mean, they've got they don't. No, I mean, it's there. It's just for them. It's just for them.
Oh my God.
So we've. I mean, they've got to learn and they've got to forage and do all those things on their own. I mean, it's their trip to survive. It's their raft to survive, I should say.
What did you learn? Because you being that close, you had to have been a student.
I mean, I learned a ton, and I think just it's something we say to our children, and we said to ourselves 30 years, for centuries probably, but don't judge a book by its cover.
Yep.
That simple. I mean, you can look at something and be so sure that you got it all figured out, that the next move they're going to make, and where that individual is coming from. And, well, she experienced this, and she feels so strongly about that. she'll surely operate in this manner and act in this way. And then you're proven wrong, and you're surprised time and time again. And I think that's what surprised me. But also that's what I learned. I mean, that's what I continue to learn is that, people will surprise you.
There has to be a book that's going to come out of this, because either that or you're going to be touring the country and you're going to be talking to businesses about this is how you can have a stronger layer and foundation for your company as it grows forward. This is such a business show. I love it.
Thank you, brother. Yeah, that means a lot. And I wouldn't have ever thought it in that way. But it makes a lot of sense.
Oh. Nate, you got to come back to this show anytime in the future. The door is always going to be open for you.
Thank you, Errol. I appreciate that.
Well, you be brilliant today, okay?
All right. You too, sir.